It's a good win. There's a lot of people. It's like Woodstock, except everybody's got their clothes on.
Don't eat a damn snack.
You're like my wife when you get in space. You just get lost.
It's ahead! Short steps are better than long steps. That's the only time in your life you're going to hear short is better than long. It's ahead!
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to 614 Headsets, the weekly sports podcast where we say football is unconditional love. We're three high school football coaches from Columbus, Ohio. We consider our show a movement of this lifestyle, of this great game we love. We're excited to have you join us in this movement we're all about. Boys, say what's up to everybody.
How we doing? Excited to get on here with the boys. The best day of the week right here.
Appreciate everyone for tuning in and hope you enjoy this episode and many more.
Hey, make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube or wherever your favorite platform is. Give us a like, give us a comment. Follow the show at 614headsets.com and check out the lab and all the fun X's and O's things that we're trying to bring to you on there. And we appreciate everybody that is following us. And if it's your first time joining us, we hope you stay with us. All right, everybody enjoy the show. As we get rolling today, 614 Headsets is proud to be presented by Fundraising. University Ohio offers a variety of fundraising efforts that helps football teams run profitable, effective, and fast-paced fundraisers designed to raise the most money in the shortest amount of time to reach their fundraising goals. Fundraising University Ohio is locally owned, operated, and with their 6-step blitz system will help your team maximize profits. As a current coach himself, Brent Maxwell with Fundraising University will sit down and help you pick, plan, strategize, and execute your fundraiser that will allow you as a coach to focus on your practice time, prep time, player development, and personal time. If you're interested in us running a fundraiser for you, please contact Brent Maxwell at the letter B Maxwell at fundraising.net or 740-501-8946 to learn how you can get started with fundraising. Welcome back to the show. Another week, episode 40. We're getting higher and higher into this. I can't wait. We got a special night again. This is the first time we have a coach coming off of a state championship. I know he probably doesn't want us to say that. He's a pretty humble guy. And it's another special episode because week 2 in a row, we have a special co-host, Coach Ward from Gahanna Lincoln High School is joining us, a.k.a. The Hammer, a.k.a. Dad. He's joining us. So, Bruce, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Appreciate being on.
Appreciate it, man. Ryan, spring break this week, right?
Just been living the dream, right? Top golf tomorrow with some of the teachers, right? Just kicking it.
Yeah. Daddy daycare, too, huh? How's it been over there? 8, 9 kids? How many are there right now?
7.
6.
6.
God bless you.
It's a wild show in here, but at the end of the day, it's fun, though. Those cats were running around going crazy today. It's all boys.
Oh, my gosh. You getting some plays out there, getting them lined up a little bit?
Yeah, but not today. Today was all inside because of how wet it was outside. You see what I'm saying? And it's like feral animals running around your house all day.
Poor man. But without further ado, joining us tonight, Coach Bob Gecewich. Coach, we appreciate you coming on. And once again, congratulations on achieving what you have, your first state championship as a head coach. So congratulations. But Coach Gecewich, correct me if I'm wrong, but it says you are from Euclid High School, went on to go to school at Bowling Green, where I think you played a little rugby, if I read.
I did. I wasn't good enough to play football. Went out there and saw the rugby team out there. I was like, hey, we'll give this a shot. And it was good. And actually, my son's just turned 13 and he plays now in the spring, which is awesome because then I don't have to travel to all the baseball tournaments.
There you go.
So he goes and plays that, and it's perfect.
And then after that, it looks like an assistant at, is it McGavick in Dorchester in South Carolina?
So Woodland in Dorchester, South Carolina for 1 year, and then McGavick in Nashville, Tennessee for 5. And then I had my second child and wanted to get back up to Ohio and wound up at Marion Local for 2 years as an assistant. And then from there, Tim Goodwin pulled me into the office, said he wasn't going to give it up anytime soon. And if I wanted to be a head coach, it wasn't going to be at Marion Local. So I actually appreciated that, right? Gave me his blessing and applied for 2 head coaching jobs and got the one at Dublin Jerome. And I was there for 6 years. And now this is my 3rd year at Perry.
Yeah. And at Marion Local, 2 state championships, Dublin Jerome, 3 league titles in 6 seasons, obviously a state championship last year. Let me tell you guys one of my early Bob stories. We both came in the OCC, I think the same year, and we're getting ready to play each other. And Bob's team's on a roll, man. Like, they're super physical that year. They're having it looks like they're going to be at least a champion or co-champion. And before the game, you would have thought this guy's 0-10. And I'm just being quiet because I'm like, this team is like really good. What is he talking about? But it's just funny because he's got that Belichick-esque to him where he's just always seeing where the perfection needs to be and striving for it. And it was just us on here before the episode. He talked about even on the bus ride home after state championship, already combing through the roster. I had to share that. I think it's funny. But Coach, thanks for joining us. Why don't you, episode 40, we're talking about crafting championships. No better coach than yourself with 3 state championships to come on and talk about that. You gave us a little bit about your journey. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about this journey of last year in the state championship run a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. 2 years ago, I actually remember after week 1 going off on him because it was just an awful Thursday practice. And I actually laid into our quarterback, and I told him that Brad Mandler should give every penny back. It was like just laying into him. I was terrible. And then I was like, I hope you hit it big and wind up at Walsh University so I could rob people of money too and say I trained you. And I was just hammering him, told the team we were going to go 0-10. I said, the cool thing is I'll go in history as the only Perry coach to go 0-10. So I'll get fired, but at least I'll make history. And then we rolled Kenston that week, and the kids just dogged me for the week after that. Going into this year, we knew we were going to be super young. We only had 4 seniors that played. It's just hit or miss on where you're at. And I thought early in the season that Kirtland win was huge for us. That was big for us. But the dangerous thing with a win like that is if your kids start believing what they're being told at home. They start believing how great they are. They start reading the paper, whatever it is. And that can be a problem. Because the one thing that I do think that we pride ourselves on is I think our kids get better as the year progresses. And I think that's something that we did consistently at Jerome as well. I thought our kids just got better every week. And to have a win of that caliber that early in the season was awesome, but it was a little scary. Just constantly reminding the kids, and I wasn't going to lie to them and be like, hey, this is just another win. No, it's a huge win. But telling them we can celebrate this after the season. We've got bigger goals than this. We got to get better. So we went through the season, hit the playoffs, right, playing pretty well. One of the other things that I think we do really well is we're not worried about stats. We see some teams where the scores are insanely lopsided. We put our young kids in as soon as humanly possible. We want to get guys out. We want to get kids experience because at some point, I don't know what's going on over there.
I don't know if it's Bruce's dogs or what. Bruce has some straight savages, dude. It's got to be Bruce.
Getting after it.
My dog, man.
There's going to be like Dotson jumping up, and it's going to be nuts.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, dang, is someone shooting?
I knew the second time and I looked at Bruce, I knew it was those dogs, man.
I got a 100-pound chocolate lab that is a holy terror, man.
He's the only guy I know that has an air tag on his dog because
he gets lost
through the fence and they got to find it through an air tag.
It has to be 2 miles away somewhere.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, you're good. But I think one of the good things is we had an opportunity to play a lot of young kids, and we'll talk about that when we talk about numbers later on. So, and our defensive coordinator is really cool about it. He doesn't care if we give up scores when those young guys are in because he wants them to learn and keeps perspective on it. But the ability to do that, I think, is one of the biggest things that allowed us to be in a position to play for a state title because we lost an offensive guard on the second play of scrimmage of the season. Okay, so we literally played the season with 5 offensive linemen. If somebody went down, our tight end was playing, and he was going to go to tackles. We made the season through with five offensive linemen. The only other injury we had, our running back hurt himself or got hurt in the Final Four game against Harvest Prep, one of the hardest hitting teams I've seen, period. And he got hurt in that game. We put him in the state title game just as an outside backer, and he couldn't move very well, but the kid that we had behind him, if we put him on the field, they would have ran the ball at him every single time. At least we had the illusion of having an athlete in that position. So I think the ability to stay healthy throughout the year is so underrated and so huge.
Is there a point that you think you knew, okay, this team can do it all?
No.
Even up until the end, you weren't sure.
No, so it's when I was at Marion Local, it's funny. I'd sit there and I'd watch film and I'd be like, all right, this is what we can do. This is what we can do. And by Tuesday, I'm like, we're not even going to get a first down. We're not going to score. Like, it was like you were saying. And I think it helps and it drives me that I always think I'm the worst guy or we're the worst team. But at the same time, it makes it hard to enjoy some of the things that you do. So during the season, I didn't think it. I thought if we stayed healthy, we had a chance, right? You have Ironton, who I don't know what interstate is down there, but they are the accumulation of everything in 3 different states and all that. So they're a machine. And then I saw Harvest Prep on film, and one of their losses was this Center Grove team out of Indiana, and they played with them. It wasn't like, hey, we're just rolling you over. Like, they played with Coach Smith. Does a great job over there. And then you never know who you're playing because, especially in small school ball, like, I don't know any of these teams. I don't know. Liberty Center beat Coldwater. I know Coldwater. I know that's the real deal, right? But it was funny. I'm talking to our kids about, hey, man, if we make those mistakes, we're going to lose to a Coldwater. If we make and they're like, what the hell's a Coldwater? They don't know anything outside of the area. Our kids are so ignorant. We could schedule St. X, Menor, Cleveland Heights, and they think they have a chance in every one of those games. And there's something to be said for that. That's good, but you've got to temper them from time to time. So, no, I had no clue that we were going to be in the position that we were in, but I'm happy we were.
Absolutely. Ryan, let's get going. Let's get to know Coach a little bit more in your favorite segment.
Here we go. The Pick Six segment is powered by Story Rivals Sports Media. Championships, friendships, and life lessons are among the most meaningful parts of the athletic competition. We are passionate about preserving them by offering the most unique highlight experience available.
And Story Rivals delivers your team's content with services designed to change the way you experience these unforgettable moments now and for a lifetime. Storied Rivals now offers a complete team apparel and player shop customizable to your program. Contact us by email at info@storiedraivals.com to schedule a membership with our team. So make sure you hit up Aaron and the rest of his team, get you all set up for 2024. They're a great partner, great products. You can't find anybody to work with. So, Coach, you're going to get 6 random questions. You're going to get 6 questions, but you don't know the questions. That's the joy in all of it. And we're going to round robin it. So go ahead, Coach Sayers.
After watching a lot of basketball, who are you cheering for, Kaylin Clark or Angel Reese? Who are you cheering for?
Clark. I like 3-point shooters.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you that one. I like Angel Reese. I just like the attitude.
Hey,
I figured that.
Caitlin Clark got a little attitude too now. She gets after a little bit.
Yeah. I set the scoring record. She pulled up from the logo. Like, yes, she just knew.
She is a dog, though. I'm not knocking her. I just like Angel Reese's swag.
Moxie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they 2 good players. All right, Coach, I'm up. Coach, if you had to coach but couldn't coach football, what sport would you coach and why?
Couldn't coach football. I have to coach a sport. It stems back to Dublin. I would either do rugby or lacrosse. And the reason I would do one of those 2 is the coach at the time, Andy Asmo, told me that I was an idiot because I coach a sport that all the dads either played or think they know. And he said, they don't know lacrosse. They didn't play it.
Right.
He goes, so even when I screw up, sometimes they don't know. So that, or I have a slight background in rugby. It's still a contact sport. And I think it's a unique sport. One of the reasons my son plays it, he's never going to touch a football. He's going to be a lineman. Dude, you're never touching it. We don't lie to him and tell him, hey, you might be a tight end if you do it. Your ass is going to put your hand in the dirt, and it's going to be there the rest of your life. In rugby, he can pick it up, he can run, he can do a little bit, some different things. So it's a pretty inclusive, and it's a super cheap sport. At the tail end of my career, I want to give back, and I want to go to a lower income school district, and that's where I want to work. And that's something that doesn't take – you get a ball. You get a ball, you find some uniforms, and then you just roll. So that's something that I would coach.
Yeah, interesting about the lacrosse is – my son started playing in 3rd grade, and he was part of the first youth program in Gahanna, and it was the same way. No one knew what was going on in lacrosse, so like everybody was just, we was just cheering, happy to be out there, happy that our kids were running around, didn't understand one bit of it. I would agree. Like, I would coach a sport that no one knows anything about, or at least think they know anything about.
Yeah. The think is the dangerous part.
That's right.
Like up
I've
until
never played lacrosse. Northeast Ohio, I feel like we didn't have
No.
lacrosse up there.
I felt like it got to there very late compared to other parts of the state.
No one had it. Like when I back home, Youngstown, no one played lacrosse.
This is right. Northeast Ohio isn't suburban. Like you have suburbs. They're dying towns. They're tougher towns. And I'll catch some flack for that, but it's okay. Columbus is just growing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that I moved is I couldn't afford to live in Dublin and actually have a life. Whereas I bought a house for $220 and I'm 7 houses off the lake up here. So I don't even know if that would even get me a condo in Westerville. I don't know. So
Rent an apartment.
Yeah, if you're lucky. But you did coach football and picked football as coach. And that gets me to my question. When did you know you wanted to coach football, or when did you know you wanted to go into education and be a coach, and maybe what inspired that?
So it's actually a funny story. I was in a Blockbuster. I was working at Baco Manufacturing my first year out of high school. I was pretty smart in school. Nobody that I personally knew went to college. So I was like, why am I going to go to college? Why am I going to do this? So I was working at Baco Manufacturing, and I stopped at a Blockbuster to get a movie. And Kevin Hutchins was one of our coaches when I was in high school, and he started cussing me out in the aisle. He asked me, hey, what are you doing, man? I was, hey, this is what I'm doing. He's like, why isn't your ass in school? He's like, I'm old. I got 2 kids. I'm trying to go back to school, do it right now. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, you are old. He was probably like 30. He probably wasn't that old at all. So then I started taking classes at a community college and then transferred into college. And initially I was looking at either law or education. But in my extended family, a lot of kids didn't graduate high school. A lot of kids that I know didn't take full advantage of education. And education just always clicked with me. School was always easy. But I also knew that it opened up opportunities. I went into education. I think I did something in like Toledo, and that just solidified it. And this is what I'm going to do. And then in my student teaching, I helped coach at Fostoria, and I was hooked on it. And I played NCAA all the time, so like I had all the answers. Like I built Cleveland State into a juggernaut. I got BG to go into the Big Ten and just dominated everyone. So I was like, this stuff's easy. Let's just do this.
Number 1 recruiting class.
Oh yeah. Well, I would take it personal when a kid wouldn't sign with me.
Yeah.
Like I would legitimately get mad, and I would like schedule that team so that I could destroy that team because the computer knew that my feelings were hurt. So
here's the thing: the new one's coming out. That's what I'm turning my Xbox back on.
So
That's why I was wondering if he's looking forward to the new one coming out.
Oh yeah. Like my son's 13 now, and he texts me. He's like, hey, it's coming out this summer, and he's like, but it's only on PS5, and I was like, looks like we're buying a PS5.
Yeah.
So,
It's going to be the happiest and worst day. And it's so happy he gets PS5. So sad when Dad trashes him about 70 on the game.
Or he can't get on it because Dad's on it.
can't get on it. That's going to be the real problem. Can't get on it.
It's my turn to recruit. Ryan, what do you got?
All right, Coach. So my next one for you is, say you're a high school football recruit again. What college football coach would you want to play for, and why?
One, I was awful. I was awful in football. I was 100%.
Say you're like a 5-star. You get to pick whoever you want.
Who would I play for? You know what? I think Fickle is a real dude. I think Freeman is a real guy. I think they are exactly who they put out there. There's no salesman in those guys. I think they're pretty straightforward. And I know there are a ton of other guys. If I was a running back, I'd follow Tony Alford wherever he goes. That's where I go. But I know that's sacrilege in your guys' area there. But great human being, phenomenal guy, and again, just straightforward. So I appreciate that. Marcus Freeman, Luke Fickle, one of those as a head coach, one of those guys.
Bob, it's crazy you say that. I've always said that about Luke. I don't care if he was coaching at Columbus State. Like I was always, if my son had a chance to play for him, he was playing for him. I don't care where that was going to be. But that didn't happen. But still, I agree. I think those guys, and I think Freeman is a product of Luke. He coached him in college. They're still close today. And I agree with Alford. I know Alford's now at that team up north, but I know he might have been in your program while you were there.
Yeah.
But great guy. He obviously recruits Central Ohio and has been in the school a couple of times. He's a great dude.
One of the best things about Tony, and that I appreciate, and I love him, man, I had 2 of his sons. I had one of his sons for 4 years in the program. And I think his senior year, he probably averaged about 5 snaps a game. And not one single time, and I talked to Tony quite a few times, not a single time was it about football. It was a lot of academic stuff. It was just a lot of life stuff. And I don't know, I just appreciate genuine. And I know it's hard to be in those roles and be genuine all the time, but I think I just like to know where I stand. And I think those guys would pull you into the office and be like, hey, you're a third string guy. We'd like to have you in the program, but if you want to go somewhere else. Yeah.
I had both in college. I played at 2 different universities. I had 2 different experiences. And I personally, as a player, got both. The didn't get the straight answer, hey, how you doing, to the guy that was going to call you out, like, you better get it going, buddy, or you're going to get moved. You know what I mean? And looking back, he's my mentor. I appreciate him for that. And it really, like you said, it solidified how I wanted to be as a coach in the future. And Coach, the last question is, if you were banned from the United States, like you had to leave, right? This is believable for you. It might happen. You never know. Which country would you move to, and maybe why?
Wait, this isn't the last question, though, because Bruce still got to ask his.
Bruce, you got one?
Yeah, but go ahead.
I'll
do that.
No, we'll go with Bruce's, because now I taught world geography for a little bit. So now I've got to rack my brain and figure this out. Like, who's not going to hate me because I'm American? One, like that's a place I got to figure out. I hate the cold. Like, that shit's getting old. I saw like this posting for a job in South Carolina, and I was like, do I really need retirement? I was like, is that an important thing? I would like to be warm year round, but let's go with Coach Ward's question. And then
think about it for a sec.
Yeah.
Right. Coach Ward, this might throw him.
Yeah, this is going to throw your thinking off, though. This is a great question.
No, it's good. Let him chew on it. It's good.
Yeah. All right, here's my question for you. If you hit the lottery for 100 million plus, what would be the first thing you would buy or do?
First thing I'd do is I would put it away from my kids, like portions of it for my kids. First thing I would buy, geez, that's rough, man. I've got a house. I'd buy a house on the beach somewhere. Yeah. I buy a house on the beach, then I'd get a car. And then I have gotten into, I'm giving you 3 answers, but I've gotten into the most middle-aged, yuppie, Caucasian stuff ever, where I just collect vinyl now. I don't know why.
Dude, I do too now. We bought a record player and stuff and speakers and stuff like a month ago. It is awesome. It's an awesome vibe.
I will never do that. I promise.
No, it's great, man.
I don't
My
think
daughter even loves it.
I'll never be to that point of that. I guess Caucasian male stage in my life where I'm just sitting there listening to vinyl.
See, I don't know if it's a Caucasian thing, but I think it's definitely an older thing.
There's plenty of non-Caucasians on vinyl.
That's right.
That's what it was brought up as. That's what I said.
You can get Drake and Jay-Z and everybody on vinyl still.
I'm not listening to vinyl.
So the cool thing about it, though, and this is, Sayers, you're like 22. You're from Fitch, which isn't that hard, but we'll pretend like it is. The vinyl, like, you have to listen to the whole record. So
you appreciate it for what it is.
So my son was actually sitting in the basement listening to it, and I've got all these random ones that I took from uncles and things like that, and I found a couple shops. Like, I have this Sweet Etta James one, but he wants all the rap ones. And I know we're not allowed to say that we still like Kanye, but he grabs one of my Kanye ones, he puts it on, and he's listening to that. And then I was like, hey, man, this is one of my favorite albums ever. And it was the Outkast AT Aliens. And so we were sitting in the basement playing 2K and listening to that. And then I was like, hey, you can listen to this, you can vibe to this, you cannot repeat any of this. Because I'm your principal at school and I will suspend your ass. So
I like the concert ones too, man. When they're like live from concerts, you get the whole vibe of them being at the Ryan, come on, man. Hey,
I'm never gonna listen to vinyl. I don't know.
Well, when you come over, we're gonna put a record on it.
I'm just gonna plug my phone up to some Bluetooth and listen to some
different sound.
They say vinyl is the best way to listen to music. So,
see, I don't buy into that. I don't know if that's what it is, but I just think it's fun. And it honestly takes me back to where you would buy a new CD and you would actually listen to every single song on it. And
I'm a chronic skipper too.
After you figured out the layout, then you would skip, right? But which CDs reminds me, and now I apologize. Now we're all over the place. I don't know if Bruce and Stout remember this, but No Limit. Every time you would buy a CD, they'd have 15 ads inside of the CD for these other CDs that were about to come out. It was like the most ingenious marketing scheme ever. Because you'd be like, man, I want that one. Because the guy would do one verse on a song. And he'd be like, yeah, I need that one. I need that one. It was.
Yeah. But that's
To
what
buy
you looked at the whole pamphlet that came with the.
Oh, yeah.
The CD.
Yeah.
To buy unedited CDs, I had to drive to the next town over to go to where they had a Best Buy. And I remember plopping them in the old Walkman with the tape deck plugged into my mom's minivan and everything, man. Yeah. Times have changed a lot. Ryan, you have it easy. Coach.
I got it easy. The Bluetooth is easy, man. Look, in my car, my first ever car, we had the little tape cassette that came out with the wire. So I never had the much CD life. You know what I mean? I was
never
just
had to burn anything or anything. Just a
line
privileged
wire.
life. Coach, all right, where are you moving to? Your band? Where did you think of? Even I'm feeling it's going to be warm.
Yeah, I would like warm, not necessarily warm all the time, but Mediterranean. There, Greece looks pretty nice. I honestly, if I got banned, and I may wind up doing this anyways, I wouldn't mind becoming a hermit. I wouldn't mind like getting a cabin somewhere and just taking my dog. I've got a yellow lab. Bruce has got a chocolate one, and this dog she'd never run away. She's obsessively attached to my hip at all times. So you could throw bones out there and she'd be like, can I go?
Mine's a boy. That may be the difference.
That could be it. So I'd do that, or I'd find one of the little island nations, go out to Fiji or something.
There you go.
And just go hang out there.
Good. Love it. Hey, that's a Pick Six segment sponsored by Storied Rival. Let's get into what this man is here to talk about. All right, so today's about crafting championships. We said before in the beginning, Coach is off a state championship last year, his first as a head coach, 2 as an assistant. Coach, you've been fortunate to be a part of 3 state championships. Was there something that was in common maybe between all 3? Was there any – I know teams are very different and situations very different. Was there any commonalities between them?
I think the most underrated one, because we like to pretend we're better than we probably are, is players. On that state finals game, we had the best football player on the field. And I think that's without doubt that we had the best player on the field. So that definitely helps. Marion Local, we probably had the best players on the field. That obviously helps. Health, but a mental thing that stuck out to me when I was at Marion Local. So I grew up a Browns fan, right? You always expect the other shoe to drop and something bad to happen. It was the exact opposite out there. So we would practice something in the preseason. We'd never call it. And then week 15, Tim would dial it up. And the kids just, all right, sweet. We're going to run this play. We're going to make the play. It's a double reverse. No one in the stadium considers, hey, we could get blown up 12 yards in the backfield. It's just going to be a score. There was this mindset that 50-50 balls aren't 50-50 balls. I'm catching them. This is going to go to me. Hey, it's 4th and 1. If we're on defense, we're getting the stop. Like it was just this mentality, and right, success feeds into that. But I do think that there's a certain level of confidence from your preparation, but also a certain level of borderline arrogance that we just deserve for good things to happen. So I do think that was a commonality between the 2 teams, the 2 Marion Local teams, and then this year's team. I think our kids just expected good things to happen. And when something bad happened, it was not crippling. It never snowballed. Like it was, I think we've gotten to a good point right now at Perry, and next year's going to be a little scary for a couple of reasons, but we've gotten to a good point in the past 2 years where when kids made a mistake, they were good with it. They just rolled to the next one, and they just played that next play. And I think that's been huge for us.
Hey, Coach, I got a question for you. Just probably a little more philosophy question than the whole culture type thing. But obviously you had spent some time here at Central Ohio and getting to know you a little bit, kind of watch you from afar and looking at your scores throughout this 16-0 run state championship year. And I'm going to say this. I looked at this today. You outscored your opponents by 472 points, which is absurd. I think you averaged over 36 points a game while only giving up 6.6 points a game. And I think, obviously, that's state championship level right there. One of the things I'm always curious about from a head coaching situation is when you're going through this and you're looking at your team heading into the year, is there a certain philosophy that you look at and say, hey, we're going to put our best players on defense and hope to score enough points? If we hold them to 6 points a game, we should be in most games? Or do you play kids wherever they're best at? Do you have a philosophy like that? I've heard a team saying, hey, we're going to take our best 11, put them on defense, and then we'll figure it out on offense. But you averaged 36 and only gave up 6. So I'm sure you have great players on both sides. But do you go into the season with any philosophy like that?
So I coach the offensive side of the ball. And when I was at McGavick, we actually drove up to Kenton, Ohio during the reign of Matty Mock, where they'd throw for 10,000 yards a season and whatever it was, just to learn about their offense a little bit. And I was convinced at that time I was going to be 5 wide all the time. We were going to kick onside every time. And we were going to, like you said, we were going to 2 platoon. And they were like a D4 school. And they were going to 2 platoon. Marion local rights, some different things happened. And then I'm watching the St. Ed's Huber Heights Wayne championship game one year. And Huber Heights had dogs everywhere. But they're playing on kickoff team. They're playing linebacker. They're playing running back. And when I was at Marion Local, Goodwin said, I'm never going to lose with my best player on the sideline. So even at Jerome, like, we built numbers. We had 125 kids in the program when we walked out of the program. We didn't feel comfortable 2 platooning because we had 18 real varsity football players or whatever it may be. And we got as close as we could. But my philosophy is we're going to give anything and everything that we can to the defense. And we've got a great defensive coordinator. He's been a head coach a couple places. He loves what he does. We give as much time to him as we need. So we don't 2 platoon. We're a small school. We give him as much practice time as he needs. And then when kids need breaks, they take their breaks on offense. So like number 12 was our best player. If he needed a break, he was taking it at slot receiver or running back. He wasn't taking it at safety. And so the philosophy there is, yeah, we're going to let the defense build, and then we're going to take kids as we can. Our middle linebacker played running back in the state final game. Probably one of our top 3 or 4 offensive players. He barely played any offense during the season because he was such a good middle linebacker. That's where he was so important to the team. So I think it's funny when people say I give my best 11. No, you look at where the kid's best at. And then if that kid is your best, let's just say safety, and your best wide receiver, priority goes to safety. And that's just my personal opinion on how to do that. So I do give the advantage to the defense. And there are a lot of reasons for that. You can have, and maybe this is just ignorance speaking, but defense is hard. Prepping a team defensively. I think a high school defensive coordinator's job is harder than a defensive coordinator at any other level, because you can run the gambit of seeing a little bit of everything throughout the season. And then you see a junk offense all of a sudden that they never showed this before, and now we have to adjust to it. Or, hey, they never showed unbalanced, and now they have 4 guys on this side. How do we do this? So they've got to do that. Whereas offensively, we're going to run what we run. And we've got our tweaks, and we've got those certain things that we do, and we add a lot of them. But, and this is counter most football culture. Like, how many times does my kid need to run a hitch before he needs to know how to run a hitch?
Right.
It's week 12 and your ass can't pull and kick out, and our base run is counter tray. It's not going to fix it if I run it 50 more times in practice.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's interesting. I think obviously there's different ways to skin a cat, and guys that win, I always like to hear what their thought process is. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but like, obviously you win certain ways, and I'm just wondering what that is.
like, we huddle all the time, and it actually started at Jerome because we were awful, despite what Stout's lying about. So Stout had 8 dudes that got D1 scholarships on that South team.
Well, not 8.
It was stupid. He had 3 kids that went to IMG. He had all this stuff over there.
They have a kid go to IMG. That
He had a kid who played 3 games and was first team all-state running back. Like, it was nuts. But like, we started
oversell.
We started huddling to avoid, to just control the clock and do things like that. And I just believe that we can control some things offensively. And so our defense needs more prep time. They need more practice time, and they need the best guys that we have. You can hide a guy on offense. You can't hide a guy on defense.
It's about dictating the tempo. I mean,
I told you, if they don't score, they don't win. That's what I said last with Coach Manilak. That's my favorite quote.
It's pretty accurate.
This is a truthful statement.
Hey, Coach, I got a question for you. Going from Columbus, like Dublin area, being a multi-high school district, and obviously a more uppity town, and then going to Perry, like what has been the biggest difference, and what's been the biggest thing that's similar?
Just being a multi-school district, I think the original high school has tradition, right? In Columbus, they all split. So your Davidson has the tradition, Bradley has to build it. Olentangy has it, Liberty, Orange, Berlin, I don't know how you pronounce it, but like they have to build those things. When I was at Jerome, I think my last season there was the 15th year in existence. So nobody that lived in the community went to Jerome. So you had to find a way to build it. That being said, like Jerome was such an awesome first job because it was bad and nobody cared. We had all the resources in the world, but we could figure it out. So I got that job and coached my first game at 30, and I was the second oldest coach on staff. And we ran around and we figured it out, and we tried a bunch of things and made a bunch of dumb mistakes and things like that, but we got to do it together. And the kids took pride in any step forward. Whereas when I came to Perry, they have had a semblance of success. So there was a natural resistance to change. Like, why are you telling us what we're doing is wrong? We just won X amount of games, and we have this kid that plays here and this kid that plays there. So there's a little bit of resistance on that end. From a community perspective, a lot of people grew up here, stay here, or they move back and they send their kids here. So you have that built-in pride. I did get upset. My first year, we went out to West Branch and we lost in week 13. And I looked in the stands and it looked like a Jerome away game my first year, where it was just like the families that were there. And I was like, I ordered black uniforms the next year, which was a big no here. Our colors are red and white. It's in the alma mater. You can't do this. We're not Harvey. We're not whoever, whatever, Chardon. And I told the athletic director, I said, hey, listen, unless they were in the stands against West Branch, they don't get a vote. So they don't get to see where we're at. But then we started building that. I think to build that support, right? And I think it's always going to exist at Perry because the people went here and they love it. And it's gotten so much better these past 2 years. And this year it was insane. But like at Jerome, we sold out to the student section. Like one of our best things that happened to us at Jerome was a kid quit football. And then he became the student section leader and he had the personality for it. And we purchased a speaker for him. And I went out, thanked those guys. They were at Berlin games, sideways sleep, bought them all chocolate milk, got them all chocolate milk or hot chocolate, not chocolate milk, hot chocolate, got that for them. I showed up to everything, every sporting event, did all those things. And actually, when I left Jerome, one of the notes that I got was from a dad who had 2 daughters that were in the school play. They didn't play any sports, didn't do anything like that. He's like, hey, you don't know who my daughters are. You don't know who I am. You're the only coach I've ever seen at these things. And I appreciate that. And so we went to every single football game. You have to build those things where at some places it's built in. My time at Jerome was awesome from a growth standpoint and from a learning standpoint.
I got a question, Coach. So you talked about numbers and increasing numbers, and I know you do some of the different unique events and things that we try to do too. And I think you've always done a good job building up the programs you're at or making it better as you're there. I feel like our game's been under attack over the last few years a little bit, and numbers have been in difficult places. But are there some concrete things you do to build numbers in your program?
So I think there are 2 things there, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. So I heard Heartline say our game's under attack. From who? Like, I haven't heard anything about CTE in 3 years. But I guess when you give the same speech 4 years in a row, you just recycle that. So
officials. It's under attack by officials.
It's under attack by officials.
But I think under attack in the way that like it had gone on for so long where it's changed.
Yeah.
I had a kid in class literally who's I want to play football, but literally there's still parents who are like, they won't let me play. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's like one of the best baseball players. I look at him and I want to be like, dear God, will you come play slot receiver safety for us? You know what I mean?
So I think some of that's the specialization, right? Mom and dad probably think he's going to get drafted and this is what he's going to do. And if he bench presses, he's not going to be able to throw. If this happens, if he gets hurt. So I think that's part of it. But what I do think is under attack are the mindsets and the skills that make you really good at football. or the skills that make you really good at any sport, right? That every single day, just doing the monotonous work and working at it, taking honest conversation and hard conversation, right? I'm an assistant principal now, and the amount of, from both adults and kids, who can't take conversation, there's no compliment sandwich. This is just what you need to do, and you didn't do it. And people aren't comfortable with that anymore. So I think that's under attack. I think standards-based grading, where you get 57 different shots. You don't get 57 different shots in football. You don't get 57 different shots when there's a minute left in a basketball game and it's tied, right? You don't get it when you're the last batter up in baseball. So I think that those being able to handle both success and failure is what's under attack, because we try to make things super easy on everyone. I think AI is going to be one of the worst things that ever comes out. And you can't stop it, right? You can't stop a moving train. But what's it going to do? It's going to make people unoriginal. It's going to make people lazier. And it's going to make people really struggle when that all comes crashing down. So I think those things are under attack. Now that my soapbox moment's done, building numbers, your kids are your biggest sellers. And we stole Liftmas from you. And I like, one of my biggest struggles every year is trying to find a new logo for Liftmas. So that probably starts about a month and a half out. And I scour.
Maybe we can trade a few. We can help each other out.
So that's, you do the Liftmas. We were going to do Day of the Deadlift, but it was actually just creepy coincidence. It was Friday the 13th, March, the day that every school in the country shut down for COVID. Yeah. Like, we were going to do this Liftmas event. We had like zombies on the t-shirt deadlifting. So somewhere in Jerome's storage center, there's 95 shirts just sitting there because they're all in a box. I was like, I'm not passing these out, because right at the time, none of us knew what the heck it was. I was thinking it was going to be like 28 days later, and it was just going to be awful. So things like that. Try to make football exclusively inclusive. We try to make it where not everyone can do this. And we really sell that to our kids. Like, you choose to do something different. I think even when we had 125 kids at Jerome, that was probably 15 to 20% of the male population. So it wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't this huge number. So we definitely harp on that. But the inclusivity of it all is that you could be an awful football player, but if you show up every day, you work hard, you try to get better, we love you, man. We want you. We want you to stay a part of us. Go against my count. Go against whatever it is. I don't care. You're the kind of kid that we want in our program. If you're not going to do those things, go. See you later. Good luck. Good luck with whatever it is that you're doing. So I think when you put a little level of exclusivity to it, kids want to be a part of it. Find ways to celebrate kids. Show up to the other events. I think that's super important. Get as much gear on kids as humanly possible. At Jerome, that was huge for us because nobody wore Jerome football stuff. And so we got as much Nike gear as possible, and we passed it off. When I left that job, I had 4 bags full of Nike Jerome gear. Half of it was not really worn, that I gave to the Goodwill. And so there's some people just walking around in some pretty sweet Jerome Nike gear, and they have that. But we got everything on those guys. But your kids are your biggest sellers. So there better be something besides just football that they're there for. They better find some level of value to it. Like in the summer, we do paintball. We're right up on the lake. So we go and we do like a G.I. Jane lake workout where they're like doing planks on the water, slapping them in the face and things like that. And we try to find just different things to do that are a little bit different. And then they talk to their buddies, and then their buddies want to be a part of it. And I think that's a big part. I think the other huge part, every single kid plays in 9th grade in JV. We play every single kid. And that's really hard. It was not as hard at Jerome to sell as it was here. Like, youth football here is like this mini cult. And we're not going to win this, and we're not going to – I don't care if we win. I want every single kid that plays 7th and 8th grade football to play 9th grade football, and every kid in 9th grade to play JV, and JV to play varsity. So you play as many of those kids as humanly possible. And then to go back to Coach Ward's thing, that's where you ain't putting that dude at corner, because they'll find him even on JV in 9th grade. You put him at outside receiver and you run away from him. I think that those things are huge.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Same philosophy. Every kid in our program at the 9th and JV level plays in that game just to see. And you can see 2 helmets behind us. we change I get a lot of flack for this, and people get mad. Man, y'all get new helmets every year. No, we have to get them reconditioned, and we change the color. We keep it interesting. Like, we want to create something that kids want to be a part of and kids want to be around. And having Stout with great ideals come in, Liftmas was his first child probably. So I agree. I think, you got to continue to do a lot of different things that kids want to be a part of that everyone's not doing. And then obviously, in your case, win the state titles,
there's so much competition though for their time. And I hate this narrative that kids are lazy. One, kids are who we allow them to be. And I do. And I go back and forth with our administrative team about this. I hate that we have unlimited makeups. I hate it because it's not teaching a message. Like, my son's not allowed to do makeups. Like, you had your chance.
Right.
If you get a 0, you get a 0, dude. Live with it. Like, that was your choice. You had that opportunity. But kids have so many different options. And I think sometimes we forget how much more involved sports are now than they were when at least Stout and Ward were growing up. And Sayers, you were probably at the tail or at the start of when it started getting out of control.
I feel like I was at the end of it, or the end of everybody playing, because we had so many kids out there. And like now, same at our school. And I think the funny thing is when you start winning games or you start having your kids, like my first year when I came in at Northland, all the kids dogged the football program. Like every kid, when you walk through the hallway, they're like, "Oh, you're the new football coach. You guys suck." Like, just for no reason. They had no clue who I was. That's all they would say. And then you get your kids their gear. Now kids are wearing it. Now kids are coming to the lifting. They're wanting to be a part of something. And now the entire culture of the school has changed with the football program, as people are like, "Hey, when's lifting? When does football start? I think I might want to do it." You know what I mean? People talk about it in a way more positive way. Yep. When you start winning and you start giving out gear, that was probably one of the biggest things we did was get 3 sets of new jerseys. We changed the helmet, changed the logo, and then we got our kids a ton of gear. They get 2 travel suits, book bags. Like, they've gotten a ton of stuff in the 4 years that I've been here. And now the other kids want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think the worst part about that, though, is every time you walk through the hall, the teacher will be like, "Hey, you got a shirt for me?" you got a shirt? You got an extra shirt there?
I was actually just having this conversation, and I don't give administrators football gear. Now, if they go to games, if they go to 7-on-7s, if they know our kids, they'll get something. And that caused some issues at Jerome because 2 of the APs would get stuff, the head principal and the other AP wouldn't get anything. I had a really good AD when I first started, not a very good AD when I left. The really good AD got everything. The not good AD got not a thing. And but that's that exclusivity. Like, you're not a part of us. And maybe that's the wrong view, but there's a book, Insanely Simple, about Apple. And one of the things that he says is it's good to have enemies. And so whether it's real or fake, I have enemies, and I have a lot of real ones, but then I create my own, and it creates an us versus them. But on the other side of it, we want to support everyone that we can. I think I found a quarterback on the JV basketball team. I was like, "Hey, man, I heard you used to play quarterback. You want to come out, give it a shot?" Kid wound up playing for us as a senior. It was pretty good for us. So, yeah, I think the gear, I think you give them something of value because football sucks. It's long. Boring. It's long. It's awful. And if there's not something else involved in it, like, I wouldn't want to do it either.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh when people are like, "Man, I'd give anything to play football again." Really? Like, not a game. Like, you would give anything to play football again? You would give anything to be out there in August. You would give anything to be there in July. Like,
I always specify when I say that a game. I would give anything to play one more game, but I'm not doing them workouts.
I remember my thoughts on spring ball heading into the 5th year. You know what I mean? Been there, done that. But Coach, getting into what we talked about, just crafting championship programs, and you've talked about a lot that goes into that. Is there any important ingredients that we maybe didn't touch on, or maybe what's the most important thing you have to do from the beginning even?
I actually had Stokes and Birchfield this question. What was the biggest difference between your championship teams and your really good teams? And then, of course, like, Brad sends like this whole page full of, he thinks it's really deep and really philosophical, and it's not. But he feels good. So that's
he's gonna hear that. Brad's a big time listener. Brad's gonna hear that one.
So I love Bertrand. That's hilarious.
And essentially what it came down to was he says 1 or 2 plays, right? That's the difference between my championship teams and that. Like me and Stokes are talking, we're like, it's 70 plays, or I understand what he's saying in those close ball games. There's that pivotal moment. So I do think that there's a flaw. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is assuming because guys win a lot of games that they're really good football coaches. I think it's so player driven. There's so many guys doing so many good things, but there are only so many good players. And you guys saw it. You guys ran into St. Ed's. Okay, what are you going to do against a Division I, like not a Division I high school, like an FBS offensive line? There's only so much you can do, right? And you put your kids in the right spot, and you can do things like that. But I think the hallmarks of all of our good teams that we've had is, number one, they've been a team. And that doesn't mean that they all get along. And that doesn't mean that there aren't selfish players in that program. But the majority of kids have really bought into the concept of, we're going to do what's best for the team. Like that first Jerome team flipped when Nick Bush changed from tight end to tackle. And it was after Lancaster just destroyed us. And he flipped and their grass was like 3 feet tall and it was awful. He flipped from tight end to tackle. That gave everyone else on the team that model of, hey, we're just going to do what's best for the team. And this is what we're going to sell it to, because our way ain't working. And that kind of flipped everything for us. And in that concept, you have a belief in each other. They're resilient. I get super excited in 7-on-7s when a kid tries to jump a pass. And I don't care if it is completed and then turns into 6, or if he knocks it down, or if he picks it off. I get really excited because you're taking a risk. You're taking a smart risk. You're taking a risk. It's calculated. I'm excited because next time you do that, you're going to knock it down. And then the next time you do that, you're going to pick it. And right now is the time to experiment with that. So we build this resiliency and this risk reward concept where like taking a risk is a good thing for us. And I've always talked about this. Like, we never say, go block the punt, but don't hit the punter. No, dog, go block the punt. Go block the punt. That's all I want to hear. That's all I want to tell them is go get it. Okay, they hit the punter, they hit the punter. That's part of it. Okay, I throw a pass. Sometimes it's a touchdown, sometimes it's not. I'll tell the quarterback, hey, we're going to run 4 verts, but don't throw a pick, right? Just go play. Go trust yourself. And I think that our guys also, all of our really good teams, have really embraced growth. And you got to point it out. You got to point it out. You got to make sure that you find something to point out for those JV guys and for those scout team guys. But they've really embraced, we're going to get better every single day. We don't talk about wins. We don't have a goal board. We're not like, hey, we want to win the league, then we want to win the region, then we want to win state. Because there's so much stuff outside of your control. Like I said, like the biggest thing that led to us winning was we had the best player on the field and we had almost no injuries. Like those things are huge for us. And then I talked about it earlier, like that confidence, like borderline arrogance. Jerome, somehow we convinced those kids they were really tough. And we convinced them like, yeah, ignore your $800,000 house. You're one of the toughest sons of bitches I know. Go fight. Go do whatever you got to do, man. Go kill it. And we convinced those kids that. And they had this like really awkward arrogance about them and confidence about them. There was not a single kid on our team that was concerned that Jalen Gill was going to house one. Like they were convinced we're just going to shut him down. We had a fat linebacker picked one off in the end zone. He was convinced he was taking it back 103 and he took it back 6. And he got tackled and we had to go. But we're willing to live with that, like that confidence level of we're just going to make the plays and we're going to do really well. So I think that's what our best teams have shared that. And I think that's what COVID was so tough, because building team was so important to us at Jerome. And then it became a business. And you just showed up. It was almost like youth league. Like, hey, you come in with shoulder pads and you drop them and you go to practice. And it just wasn't fun. We couldn't do some of those other things that built those things. But I think that's the biggest thing to crafting them. I think you said from the start, like one of your questions was when you take over a program, what's something that you do from the start? So I've been fortunate to do that at 2 different places. I think the number one thing that was important for us was we started from scratch. Nothing existed before we got there. And that wasn't to diss the programs before, the players before, but what that was to give everyone a fresh start. And your stars struggle with it, right? So at Jerome, we had kids that kind of thought they were stars. At Perry, we had kids who were told they were stars and actually played by different rules and were allowed to do different things. No, you're not allowed. I don't care how good you are. Like I kicked one of our best players off the field, and his comment to their strength coach was, "Why does he treat me like everybody else?" and that was great. That was great to hear. Like you're seeing it. Like you are everyone else. Your talent doesn't dictate how you're treated. Everybody starts from scratch. Everyone has to earn everything. Like in my ideal world, we lose 2 returning starters every year, 2 to 3 returning starters, not because they quit, but because somebody outworked them in the offseason and took their job. Like I would love for that to happen every single year. 2 to 3 guys lose their job because somebody younger was hungrier and busted their ass and took that spot. Like that, I would love for that sort of thing to happen. So we start from scratch. We're honest with kids. Like I always talk to kids. You want to talk about your playing time? We'll talk about it every single day. I'm not talking to mom or dad about it, but I will talk to you about it every single time. You don't have to agree with me, but this is where we're at, right? And then you just have to be really clear with what you're going to be, what your hallmarks are. And you got to hold that line, knowing that you're going to piss some people off, knowing that you're going to make some people uncomfortable. I've said this many times. There are a lot of bad coaches who get jobs. So if I get fired from Perry for holding the line and doing what we think is best, like there will be another job somewhere out there for me. And we'll find that. And doesn't mean that I want to leave, but we're also not going to bend on our non-negotiables. For what? For a 16-year-old because he's a little bit faster than somebody else? For a dad because he's got the ear of the school board? Okay. And I was born poor, I can die poor. I don't care one way or the other. We're going to play ball and we're going to do it the right way.
Coach, I like it, man. I think you gave a lot of great nuggets. I like the risk reward. And that's something I think I had to grow in last year a little bit, is not overcoaching some things, just letting kids play and play it out. I was guilty of that with Bruce's son a little bit at times. And it was a learning thing for me, is just to shut up and let the player play a little bit. Trust what you've coached in the off season and coaching your schemes and things, and let the player play because you're not out there. I like that a lot. And hey, I'm excited for you. I can't wait to watch you next year because I think you're primed for another big one. Obviously, with what you have coming back, but also just the culture you've done. And Coach, everybody can tell you're very genuine. You're the real deal. And we appreciate you coming on here and talking to us. Sayers, go ahead and wrap this up for us.
Coach, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was a pleasure to meet you and talk to you and pick your brain. And good luck next year. And Coach Ward, we appreciate you too being the co-host. That was clutch for you to come in and do that.
It's fun, man. I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate everybody that's listening, man. Make sure you subscribe. You go to you follow us on everything. Also, contact Fundraising University. I got Brent starting next week. We start our texting donation. So make sure you guys get a hold of him in the off season.
All right, absolutely. See you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.